Welcome back, dear viewers of the Flight 404 channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history, the story of a man known only as D.B. Cooper. That wasn't his real name. It was a nickname given to him after a reporting error, and to this day, his true identity remains a complete mystery. So grab your seat, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to like the video, because what you're about to hear is no ordinary tale. Let's begin. Welcome back, dear viewers of the Flight 404 channel. Today, we investigate one of aviation's most legendary and unsolved mysteries, the story of a man the world knows only as D.B. Cooper. That wasn't his real name. In fact, we still don't know who he truly was. But what we do know is this: on November the 24th, 1971, he hijacked a commercial airliner, demanded a fortune in ransom, and then vanished into the sky with a parachute strapped to his back, never to be seen again. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Flight 404 for more mysteries that defy logic and time. Now let's jump back in time. It was Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. A middle-aged man, dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, black tie, and sunglasses, walked up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter in Portland, Oregon. He paid cash, $20, for a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington. He gave his name as Dan Cooper, a common enough name, but it would become anything but ordinary. Ironically, that name would later be confused in media coverage. A reporter misheard it as D.B. Cooper, and the name stuck. It's how the legend was born. Flight 305 was a Boeing 727-100. Only about a third full, the aircraft lifted off at 2:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Cooper sat in seat 18C, near the rear of the plane. He ordered a bourbon and soda, and quietly handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was a lonely businessman's phone number. She tucked it into her purse without reading it. Then he leaned closer and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that. I have a bomb." She opened the note. It was neatly written in all capital letters with a felt-tip pen. Cooper motioned for her to sit beside him, and gently opened his briefcase, revealing what looked like 8 red cylinders, wired to a battery. He had made his point. His demands, $200,000 in cash, equivalent to over $1.2 million today, for parachutes, and a refueling truck ready upon landing in Seattle. Nothing more. But here's a curious twist: Dan Cooper wasn't just a random alias. It was also the name of a French-Canadian comic book hero, a Royal Canadian Air Force test pilot, who regularly parachuted out of planes in daring escapes. Even more strangely, in military and aviation circles, Cooper Key refers to a type of quick-release locking system used on aircraft ejection seats and some parachute rigs. Was this man dropping clues about his identity and background, or was it all just a coincidence? In a case like this, nothing feels accidental. As Flight 305 continued its journey through the gray November sky, the crew relayed Cooper's demands to air traffic control. The message reached the FBI and Northwest Orient's headquarters swiftly. At the time, hijackings weren't rare, but this was different. It was calculated, precise, almost professional. Donald Nyrup, the airline's president, made the decision: pay the ransom, meet the demands. The safety of the 36 passengers and 6 crew members came first. Cooper's calm demeanor unnerved the crew. He wasn't agitated. He wasn't violent. He was polite. He even offered to pay for his drink, and later suggested buying dinner for the entire flight crew. Meanwhile, the aircraft circled the Seattle-Tacoma area for over 2 hours. This wasn't due to a delay at the airport. It was deliberate. Law enforcement needed time to gather the ransom and parachutes. Outside the aircraft, a full-scale emergency operation unfolded. The FBI secured $200,000 in marked, sequentially cataloged $20 bills from a San Francisco Federal Reserve branch. Authorities sourced for parachutes, to primary, to backups, from a local skydiving school, at Cooper's request. He had specifically rejected military parachutes, asking instead for civilian types with manual ripcords, a detail that would later fuel speculation about his background. At approximately 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 touched down at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. All window shades were drawn, per Cooper's instructions, to prevent any snipers from taking a shot. A Northwest Orient employee approached the plane with a black bag, filled with ransom cash and 4 parachutes. Cooper allowed all 36 passengers and 2 flight attendants to disembark. Only the flight crew and 1 attendant, Tina Mucklow, remained on board. Cooper now laid out his next plan. He ordered the crew to chart a course for Mexico City, but he was oddly specific. He demanded a cruising altitude of 10,000 feet, landing gear deployed, wing flaps set to 15 degrees, and most critically, the rear staircase to remain lowered. This was an unusual request, but the Boeing 727 was one of the few commercial jets equipped with an airstair system at the rear, and Cooper seemed to know that. The plane took off again at 7:40 p.m. Cooper was alone in the rear, briefcase still with him, ransom strapped to his body, a parachute on his back. The cabin was silent. The sky was dark. The rain was falling hard. At 8:13 p.m., somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Nevada, the cabin pressure gauge flickered. A sudden shift in airflow. The rear staircase had opened. Cooper had jumped. He vanished into the night, into legend. When Flight 305 landed safely in Reno, Nevada, the FBI was already waiting. Agents rushed aboard. Cooper was gone. The airstair was still down. Rain and wind had soaked the rear stairwell. No signs. No clues. Just empty seats and a whiff of bourbon, lingering in the air. The FBI launched one of the largest and most exhaustive manhunts in its history, codenamed Noriak, short for Northwest Hijacking. Dozens of agents combed the projected drop zone, an area stretching across Washington's dense forests, ridges, and rivers. Helicopters scanned the landscape. Search parties on foot covered rugged terrain. They found nothing. No body, no parachute, no briefcase, just silence. Despite the high-profile effort, physical evidence was scarce. Cooper had taken his note back. The briefcase, gone. The parachutes, also vanished. All that remained were a black tie, with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and a few cigarette butts, which, in 1971, weren't seen as useful DNA evidence. The tie would become critical years later, but at the time, it was just a loose thread in a tangled mystery. Nearly a decade later, in February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging along the banks of the Columbia River, near Vancouver, Washington. Buried in the sand, he uncovered something strange: 3 packets of $20 bills, rotting but intact, totaling $5,800. When analyzed by the FBI, the serial numbers matched the ransom money. It was the first, and only, confirmed recovery of Cooper's cash. This discovery reignited public fascination. Did Cooper die in the jump? Was this cash accidentally dropped? Or was it planted to mislead investigators? Theories spiraled. Was Cooper a disgruntled airline employee, a military-trained parachutist, an insider with aviation knowledge? Some believed he never survived. Others, that he escaped and lived a quiet life, perhaps watching the nightly news, smiling as his name was mentioned with awe and confusion. Ironically, Cooper left a permanent mark not only on FBI files, but also on aviation design. In response to the hijacking, aircraft like the Boeing 727 were retrofitted with an aerodynamic device known as the Cooper vane, a mechanical latch that prevents the rear stairway from being opened mid-flight. It was a subtle but symbolic reminder. One man had changed the rules. Over the decades, more than 800 suspects were investigated. Veterans, criminals, even copycats. Some confessed. Others were convinced by families. None were proven. Names like Richard McCoy, Kenneth Christensen, Dwayne Weber, and even famed stuntmen were floated, but fingerprints, DNA, and timelines ruled them out, one by one. In 2016, after 45 years, the FBI officially suspended the active investigation. The case was still open, just not being pursued. D.B. Cooper, or Dan Cooper, remains a ghost in aviation history. Neither a confirmed criminal nor a proven corpse. Some say he died in the fall. Others insist he got away with it, and with style. He became a folk hero, a symbol of rebellion. His face, never truly known. His fate, never confirmed. Just a name, a black tie, and a mystery that refuses to fade. He boarded as a shadow and left as a legend. No known photo, no confirmed identity, no conclusive evidence. Just a man in a black suit, sipping bourbon at 30,000 feet, who jumped into a stormy night, and into history. Over time, D.B. Cooper wasn't just a name on an FBI file. He became a cultural icon, referenced in songs, movies, books, and conspiracy circles. He became a symbol, not of violence, but of bold defiance. A man who beat the system without hurting anyone. The gentleman hijacker. Shows like Prison Break, Loki, and Leverage. Songs from Chuck Brodsky to Skylar Grey. Cooper became more than a person. He became an idea. Even now, conventions are held in his name. Treasure hunters scour forests with metal detectors. Enthusiasts trace serial numbers from $20 bills. The legend lives on, not because he was caught but because he wasn't. The mystery of D.B. Cooper taps into something deeply human, our love for the unsolved, the rebellious, the unreachable. Maybe that's why, over 50 years later, we still ask, Who was he? Why did he do it? And did he make it? Maybe he's out there. Maybe he's long gone. But the mark he left, on the sky, on the system, on our collective imagination, will never fade. And so ends the tale of the man in seat 18C, the hijacker with no past and perhaps no future. Only a moment, a daring leap, and silence. Flight 400 for viewers. We've reached the end of another mystery. If you enjoyed this mysterious journey, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave a comment saying who you think D.B. Cooper was. Maybe we can find the answer together. See you on the next flight. Goodbye.